This is Gordon, another do-it-yourself video, and if anyone has seen what I did on the boat trailer on my fishing boat with the guideposts and whatnot, the reason why is because I had so much trouble getting this thing on and off the trailer at the boat ramp. It's just set up wrong, and you can't do it without two people and getting your feet wet, and that's not what I bought the boat for. So what I got to do is make this piece right here longer. This comes out, it plugs in to the electric right there, and it's got a recessed plug in there. I don't know if we can see that on the video or not, but anyway, it's way too short, so we're going to make a longer one. We're going to copy that and make a longer one. And the good thing is, excuse the helicopter in the background, but I got my own personal boat ramp, my own pond for swimming, and a few catfish in there, and got my own boat ramp. Now the helicopter's passed. So I can test these things out on my boat or someone else's, or if I need to just back it down in the water and test something I did in the motor, then that's fine. So that's great. That's what I built this pond. It's part of when I built the pond. That's why I put a concrete ramp in it, because I do go fishing and do work on boats as well as everything else. So let's go back to the shop and get set up to start making this piece here. Looks like I'm going to be using the barbecue for a workbench, but this is how much longer we're going to be. This is where this is going to match up here. I got to use one that's the right size. I'm going to use that. I'm not going to weld it on like this one is, because I want it replaceable in case somebody jackknifes it and tears the thing up. It's easier to replace it. But look at how much longer that's going to be, all the way back to there. So that will give us hopefully enough room to get this thing down in the water and get it off without having to get out of the car in the water and walk in the water and all of that nonsense. It's not what I bought the boat for. I bought it so that I can go fishing alone if I want to, and just back it down in there and launch it without getting wet. Sweat dripping off in my glasses. It's going to be an issue today, but it's better than being cold. So I'm going to take this plastic end off here in a minute. I'm going to be measuring from the end to where the hole is here, this screw hole. I'm hoping you can see that on the video. I'm out here in bright sunlight. I can't see what's on the monitor. But there's a screw hole here on both sides of this. It holds this plastic thing on. It's got the electric connection in it. There's another hole here. And I got a 3/4 inch hole saw to copy these holes on this piece. They did a terrible sloppy torch job on this hole here and a rubber grommet that protects this. I bought a hole saw to cut that hole the right size. I'll show you that when we get to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and take this end off of that and get this wiring harness out of there. They have a piece of shrink tubing on this, and I'm going to reuse this length of it, this original length on the outside. I'm just going to cut this off back here, and I'm going to put an extension of wiring in between this and the other end and reuse that same piece of wire. So it's very simple. They're all color coded, and the color codes are standard, so we'll just go with that, and we'll just cut these off right there and pull this out the other end. go on and strip these wires like I always do. Just nip that barely and just do like that. Get a real quick nip right there. We'll do them all like that. This piece here is unraveling just that quick. I'm going to wrap a piece of tape around that. I didn't know that stuff would come unraveled that quick. So just quickly wrap a little piece of tape around that. Now I'll get another piece of shrink wrap like this and put on there when I put the new piece on it. But I'm going to get another piece of trailer wire like this so I can put these together with a longer piece in between them. Well, the original length of this pipe is 2 feet long, the one that came with the boat. The new one's 6 feet long, so we're adding 4 feet. So all I got to do is find 4 feet of this trailer wire, with this 4-piece trailer wire with these colors, the white being the ground, the brown being the tail lights, and then the green and yellow being your turn signals and brake lights. So all I got to do is find 4 feet of that and join these two together, and then that piece will be made. I almost never throw any wiring away. I don't know what this piece came from, but it's a trailer kit. It might have been one that I bought extra and didn't use it. It's exactly 4 feet long, and it was in my electric junk, but the white wire on it is real short. And it's not connected, it's not glued together with these other 3, but that's okay. It's 4 feet long, and I found a white wire that came from another light kit of some kind. It's got a female spade clip on the other end of it. Well, I need this end, so I'm going to cut these off. It'll be a little shorter than 4 feet because I might need this plug for something someday. Not likely, but we'll leave enough on there that I can still use that if I need to on something. So I'm going to go ahead and strip these and solder that together. I'm going to sit at the kitchen table and do these in the air conditioning. I'm not going to show how to solder on this video. I've got plenty of that on other videos. Look at the one with doing the light post on the boat for night fishing. There's all kinds of very detailed information on soldering and doing auto electric there. So I'll just make this up and get back on with you in a minute. Well, back at it again. Got this piece made up. And I said I was going to put the heat shrink on the end like I did over here, or like they did at the factory over here, but I forgot to put it on there, so I'll just have to use tape. But I got this on there. Got a piece of hose. Doesn't have to be in hose. I just think it's good that the wire is protected in something, since it's going to be loose inside the new one where the locking pin goes through here, and it could hit that wire and actually pinch it, but with a piece of hose on it, it can't pinch it. It can only go over it or under it and push the hose out of the way. Could have used a piece of PVC pipe or some of anything really, a piece of garden hose, but I used a piece of 3/8 air hose. I'm going to get a piece of tape and wrap around this real quick, and then we'll call this piece finished. Okay, I got that taped up. I'm going to set this aside for the moment. I want to show something here. The factory weld that made this piece square tubing, it comes from a square sheet, or from a flat sheet that has the corners rolled, and then the weld goes right down the center, and they put that on the bottom side of this piece. So if we roll this one around, you'll see there's the welded side right there. So we're going to put that on the bottom. And that way it won't interfere with putting this thing right on top. It'll slide right down smoothly. Won't have to do any dressing up or anything to get that on there. And it just hides it. You don't see it on this anywhere. So That's okay there. Now we're going to take measurements and copy the end of this onto this. I'm going to measure. We could just put a mark on the outside here and just cut our 3/4 inch hole from the outer edge at 6 1/4 inches from the end. But it's not quite at the bottom. I mean, it's not quite in the center of this, so we got to find out just where that is in there too. I'll get these measurements and then put some marks on this to start drilling holes. Got a center punch mark there. Just redoing it. I did it off camera. I'm just redoing it just to show. That's to keep my drill on line when I put it in there. Start drilling. I'm going to go ahead and mark the other side too. I think I'm ready to drill this now. Got a hole saw on here, and I just bought it today. 3/4 inch just for this hole. Spent about 40 bucks on this and another bit size for another hole. I never expected this to cut that fast. That was incredible. I must be using too cheap of tools. The drill, by the way, is from Harbor Freight. 1/2 inch hammer drill. We're not hammering, but it doubles as a regular drill. That's impressive. That's pretty good. Now, why at the factory they had to use a torch to cut this hole is beyond me. They made a sloppy mess of that. That's the other size I bought. We're not going to use a torch. These drills I'm using are Milwaukee. Of course, it's just the package. The drill is still in the drill, but that's your starter thing, and then here's the drill bits that screw onto it. That's a Milwaukee also. Hole dozer, it calls itself. This is 1 1/8 inch. This one, that's for the other size, where that hole they cut with a torch. I'm going to cut it with the drill, make it a rounder hole. So might as well give them a plug since it's a good tool. They cut really quick. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to cut this hole on the other end of this piece here. And I'm not going to measure. It looks like we're 1.5 inches to 2 inches from the end of the pipe. We'll just cut it right there. Since nothing has to match up with the hole, it's just a place for the wire to come out of. Then we're going to go about 2 inches from the end, like they did. Bigger plug takes a little longer to cut. I'm going to take a roto zip tool and clean this up a little bit. Got a stone in there. measuring for this little hole here that holds this plug on. I had trouble with the drill walking around before. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on that center punch. Looks like about a 3/16 hole. I'm not sure. I'm going to find a drill about that size. One more new tool, countersink. These little screws are countersink screws. They got to go in flat, so. That's the way these holes are. So. That other end is done where the electric plug goes. Now we got to do this end. The welded end is the bottom side with the hole in it. We just got to find out just where to put the holes in it for this. I guess I could hammer this thing into place and then drill right through these holes that are already drilled on this. But before I do that, I got one thing I got to do is make sure that this will come through here. I didn't think it would, so that's got to come through the other end and then pull it through here to bring it out. So I'm going to put a notch in it to bring that through. Looks like my notch needs to be about 3/8. We're going to go with 1/2 inch wide. And how long? Doesn't need to be very long. We'll just go 1/4 inch long. Put a small notch in there. Chisel some of this. I'm not going to look for a chisel, so you politically correct people can write whatever you want. I don't really care. I'm doing it right as far as I'm concerned. perfect. All right. Hammer this thing in place. I am going to center punch these. Right in the center. I'm going to eyeball the center. I'm not too bad about that. I trust myself. Okay, I'm going to knock this thing back off there and start drilling holes. Now these are 1/2-inch holes, and that's a little big to start without a drill press. Even there it's not, so I'm going to use a pilot drill, 3/16 approximately. I'm not sure just what size it is. Same one I used on those little small holes that I had to countersink. Now this big drill, these are just cheap drill bits from Sam's. They're not very good at all. And I'm hoping I can get through it without having to sharpen it, get through all these holes. I'm going to try. Roll my sleeve up. I don't need that much sleeve hanging out for the drill to grab it. That wasn't bad for a drill from Sam's. And the drill machine itself from Harbor Freight. So some of these cheap tools are worth the money, but not all of them. I think we're ready to clean this thing up and paint it. I still got one more thing to do on the back end of it. I got to put a stop block on it, like this one has. So that is one more thing I got to do. I'll have to weld that on. Now I made this little block and welded it on here. So I should be ready to paint this thing now and put it back together. Got this post painted and all ready to put back together. Not post this time, it's a trailer tongue. And there's that little piece. I don't know if I showed welding this piece on there or not. In case I didn't, that's that stop. And when you push it in the receiver hole there, it doesn't go in too far. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing together now. We also cleaned up and painted the new well, it's an old coupler, but we'll use it for a new one. There are bolts that go on it. And we're going to use a barbecue again for a workbench. I got this on. This is the grommet that was on the original one, and it's kind of weathered. And I found a copy that's not exactly the same, but I got it at the auto parts store. It goes to a PCV valve of some type on a GM car, and it's so close that I'm gonna try to stretch it over this plug, and if I can't, then I'll just cut this like they did on this one. But I'm going to try to stretch it over this plug, and it just goes over here The original, they torch cut that hole, made a sloppy mess, and earlier in the video you saw where I drilled the hole and then I just cut a notch in it so that this would pass through it. Well, I'm going to try to stretch this over it and then plug this in like that. So I'm not going to do it on the video because it might take me about 5 or 10 minutes to do that. Well, I got that on there with the help of a snap ring pliers. It's made for transmission snap rings. If I had been thinking ahead of time, I would have, since I had to cut this off and graft a longer piece of wire in between it, I would have put that in there before that, but I didn't. So anyway, here we go. See if we can get this got that on there. Now, it's obvious what I got to do next. Put this on. Let's see how well this new piece I made fits in there. Locked in. Looks like it's going to have some up and down play. Now all I got to do is bring the car back here, plug it in, and make sure the lights are working on it, and then I'm going to move the boat forward a little bit on the trailer. I'm down in the pond right now, but I'm not all that happy with it. It looks good as far as being able to get it on and off the trailer. That's not going to be a problem, but I think my trailer tongue might be too long right now, and just doesn't look right for some reason. I think it's too long. So I'm going to back it off, bring it back up, and see how it fits. I had to bring this back to my shop and cut this thing down a little bit. I made it too long the first time. It was 6 feet long. First, the original was 2 feet. The one I just made was 6 feet, and I cut it down to 4. And I just cut it off and copied the end that the coupler goes on, with the holes there and the hole underneath in the grommet for the wire there. Paint's wet right now, so I haven't put this back on yet. I just had to put a little more paint on it. Now my next thing is, I don't have a place for these safety chains. So what I'm going to do, what I've decided to do, is to weld a plate of steel crossways underneath this with some holes on it, that while that's plugged in there, it's plugged in, oh I forgot, 6-8 inches, whatever. Then I'll have just enough room to hook these on to a hole on this plate of steel up here. And so that'll keep this from being able to fall out. If for some reason this pin was not to be locked in there and it walked out of the hole, then this would not be able to actually come out of there. The chains would tighten up on it to keep it from coming out. So I'll put that with the holes for the chains in the back, and I'll put a couple more holes in the front of that plate of steel to fasten some safety chains to put on the car. Got this project all finished now. Got the plate welded on here to put these original safety chains that were short. They were back here and they would never have reached the car, and so we just put those on there now. And so if this pin was not plugged in, that would keep this from coming out and getting lost. And so we got the new safety chains mounted on the front half of this plate with bolts that of course are long enough to hook onto the tow vehicle now. So got this thing cut down to size. I made a mistake the first time I made it and made it too long, and now it is a much better size. It's 4 feet now instead of 6 feet, and just a lot better. So I didn't get into any details on welding on this video. I'm not the neatest welder. My welds hold. I've got a lot of years experience welding, but I'm just not able to do it real pretty. I do have some welding information on the other video when I made these posts, these guide posts, and I have some electric when I made the electric post. It's in there right there. I have some very detailed, if you have any questions or concerns about the electric work, like when I made this wire longer and how I soldered everything together. I've got details on those other videos on how to do all of that. I'm happy with the way it looks. It just has a nice professional look to it all the way around, and it's longer. It allows me to get the boat off the trailer now a whole lot easier and back on. So thank you for watching.